What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Glory be to God. This is Lifted Noise. My name's Raul. If you've never been here, what I'm usually doing is MPC content, tutorials, beat making videos, live streams, rhythm and poetry, rap, songwriting, that kind of thing. So today I got a video and it's all about MIDI files. So if you think that's a corny kind of thing to use MIDI files, then this is not the video for you. Go ahead and skip it. I'm not trying to convince you. We do know about some of the limitations of using MIDI files with the MPC. Like, it's not super convenient. If you load up a MIDI file, it creates a whole new sequence. Ideally, you'd want to load a MIDI file directly onto a specific track. Hopefully one day that'll be addressed in a future update. But today is all about using MIDI files in the best way you can, as far as I've thought up. So this is going to show one way of remedying that, so you can get your tracks, your MIDI files loaded up on an individual track, specifically the one that you determine, and then a couple of other uses of MIDI files. So let's get straight into it, just to demonstrate how MIDI files work. So I have some MIDI files in here from a company I won't mention, but if I load one up, it says the current sequence is used, load it into the next sequence, go ahead and load it. That's not necessarily what we want, but I now have that MIDI file on, it's on sequence 3, it's on track 1, so make sure I have a key group selected. In order to get these MIDI files on individual tracks, is we're going to want to convert them. So we're going to go right here to the pencil icon and export this as a pattern. So MPC patterns are kind of like MIDI files in a way, but they're specifically for the MPC. So if I export as a MIDI file, let's go ahead and create a folder and call it MPC patterns. And then I'll create a new one just for chord progressions, because that's what we're working with right now. Okay, and then I'll name this whatever. It'd be better if I knew what chord it was, but I'm just skipping that part. Chord Pro 1. Do it. Save that. So now let's just go over here. Whole new sequence, right? And let me get some drums down. Turn my metronome on. Get some drums down. Okay, so now that I got some drums down and I want to load up a chord progression, I can't use my MIDI files because it's going to create a whole new sequence, right? So if I go over to track 2, say I want to put my chord progression that I just exported as an MPC pattern on track 2, I can do that if I go into browse and then go look for where my MPC patterns are, go into chord progression, go to chord pro, open it up, and then it is already on there. As you can see, it is directly on that track that I determined, but I got to select a key group. Okay, so there you go. That's what you need to do, is start to turn your MIDI files into MPC patterns, and you'll be able to load them up individually onto your tracks, whatever track you determine. Now, doing this might be a little bit tedious because you got to do it one by one with the MPC. I went around trying to figure out ways I could do it. I thought maybe that MPC pattern was like the native file type for MIDI files, and I figured maybe I'd try on a computer to rename them just by changing the .MIDI to .MPC pattern. This didn't work, but I did get some information from someone over on the MPC gang, and they sent me this link to an actual piece of software. Now it's for PC. I haven't found anything for Mac that will actually bulk change all your MIDI files into MPC patterns, and that way you can just transfer them over and then have them all ready to load up into the specified track that you want. So I mean, if you don't have a PC or a computer, then, you know, if it's that important to you, I would maybe take some time to just export these. And it's really not that difficult. You load them up, export as MPC pattern or as a pattern, as you can see, and then there you go. Now they're loadable to specified tracks, however you want. All right, so the next thing I was thinking about MIDI files, MPC patterns, would be to start saving your drum patterns and all the MIDI files that you create as MPC patterns. So they are MIDI information, right? So say if I go over here to where my drums are, let's solo these. Say I like a drum pattern that I have, right? I can do the same thing, export as pattern, find my location. So now I have a whole folder dedicated to MPC patterns. Maybe create another subfolder, call it drums. And I'm thinking I could do this for individual sounds. Like I'll create a folder for hats, kicks, snares, that kind of thing. And then maybe also one that is drum loops, so the whole thing. Because on this case I have kick, snare, and hi-hat all together. And then just call it drum loop 1. Maybe you can get more descriptive with it so you know what it is if you're looking for a specific thing. Do it, save that, and then let me go ahead and load up a different drum kit. Go into my Patreon packs. Let's go way back to February. Magnetic heart drums. Okay, so now I got this whole different drum kit. And if I go browse, go back over to my MPC patterns, load up a pattern. Now it's on this track. And this works out because I'm missing a hi-hat there. On the other kit I had a hi-hat, but I usually lay these drum kits out in the same way, so my patterns are gonna work regardless, right? I can load them up, and why not? This may seem corny to some people, but it's just, if you look at it as templates, it's just giving yourself a head start. You know, you could look at it as corny, having these little cookie cutter things you can load up, but it's just a time saver, right? So I mean, I could, every time I make a beat, if I do this, if I do that like every beat, why not have that set as a MIDI file and just load it up, right? Save yourself some time, make some more beats. It's still creative, and it's pulling from your own library of things that you've created yourself. So if that helps, and that helps. Okay, so the next thing would be to turn your MIDI files into chord progressions. What I want to do is turn it into a chord progression that I can actually create variations of using pad perform right in here. So same method. If I hit the pencil icon right next to the exporters pattern, you have convert to progression, and then you have an option of naming it. It tells you what the root note is and what key it's in. So all you got to do is hit do it. It's that simple. If you go into pad perform, you make sure you're on progressions. You can scroll through all the progressions that you have, and now you can make new patterns. So then you can start building your MIDI file chord progressions into something you can play in various ways with pad perform. So there you go, just a few ways you can use your MIDI files to your advantage in the MPC. Now for that bulk converter software for the PC, there'll be a link in the description to it. So I haven't tested it myself. You're gonna have to find out for yourself, see how that works. But that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe, like the video, share it, all those things. And until next time, everybody, be bold, stay humble, lift noise. God bless.